Hello and welcome to another AIC video. Today we're going to be talking about this laptop here that Lenovo has sent to me for review. It is a T14 Gen 2. So a couple generations ago, Lenovo dropped the 400 series version of the laptop, or the name of the laptop, and they've gone with just the T14 name. But of course there have been updates since then, so now they've just added the Gen 2 on there. Laptop names are pretty terrible. I've met very few that I've liked. It doesn't help that they tried for a while there to match them to the CPU generation, which made sense in a lot of ways, but now has become a little harder to do. But Lenovo sent me this laptop for review. I didn't pay for it, but they didn't have any expectation for me as far as doing the review, but I do have to send it back when I'm done. And so I've had this now for about a month or so, and I've been working on it in place of my P43S, which I have here just for comparison. And really what this is coming home in a lot of ways. So for many generations of laptops, Lenovo has been very slow to make changes to their systems, from their docks to their charging cables to any accessories, things like that. They do make changes, obviously, as technology progresses, but they definitely make a point to try to make sure that things stay as familiar as possible, which makes a lot of sense for these Thinkpad notebooks. They're not trying to get the cool kids on the college campus per se. These are a business computer. These are meant to be in offices where compatibility, upgradability, maintenance on these laptops is key. It's the important part of them. And so by not having any differences, so my P43S is the same as the T490 as far as the chassis and the internals go. That's what it's equivalent to. This is basically the same notebook as this, and that's really nice. The keyboard is excellent. Lenovo has really, in a lot of ways, perfected some parts of their laptop. And that main part being the keyboard. Really, really good keyboard, quick to type on. I do wish though that they would upgrade their trackpads. Since they went to the T440, I've not been a huge fan of their trackpads. I really wish they would upgrade those. I've seen better ones. They're not terrible, and they definitely have improved over the years slightly, especially with driver updates and things like that. But just as a note, the trackpad is not any better than it was on my P43S. As far as ports, expandability, all that, exactly the same between these two. Port for port, I could take this motherboard out of this system and throw it in here and nobody would be the wiser. It's all the same, which is great. If you have maybe a laptop with a smashed screen and maybe one that had some water damage to the system board, you could swap those parts over and have a working laptop again from two different machines. If your IT department does that sort of thing. So it's thin, it's light. The battery life on it is excellent. This one in particular is running a Core i5 processor. And what I've done here for you is I did the same benchmark on these, ran it the same, and it's kind of sad. I know obviously this one's newer, so it's going to perform better than this generation, but I didn't realize just how much better it was going to perform. The CPU benchmark for the T14 Gen 2 is almost 4,000 points higher than the i7, the 8th gen i7 on my P43S. Also the graphics, this has just integrated Intel graphics, and it's only a few points off, just a couple hundred points less than the dedicated graphics, the NVIDIA dedicated graphics that my P43S has. So you get a lot of power in this notebook, and I'll tell you, this laptop is significantly less expensive than my P43 was to purchase. The sound quality as far as speaker goes sounds the same. This one claims to have some Dolby audio processing. I couldn't hear any difference between the two. I played a bunch of different type of audio files, music and sound effects, things like that. I really couldn't tell a difference between the two. as far as that goes. And this doesn't have that same Dolby um, sound processing built into it. And the screen is where another difference is. So I have this one set right now to 1920 by 1080, but it is a 1440 screen. It also is significantly brighter. It is, however, unfortunately glossy, so you can see all the reflections in it, where this one does have a more matte screen. It's still a little bit on the glossy side, but it's a lot better than the screen on my P43S. And that's probably the biggest difference to me, is the higher quality screen of the P43S, which you can get in the T14 Gen 2. It's just this one is not spec'd that way. So if you're looking to buy or upgrade to a newer system, if you have anything that's the T490 or the P14 Gen, the first generation of it, I don't think they call it Gen 1, but the T14, I wouldn't bother upgrading. But if you have an older version, I would definitely consider upgrading to the T14 Gen 2. It definitely is a much better system as far as the performance, and it's a very familiar system if you really like your Lenovos like I do. I'm very happy with this machine, and I am set to send it back, but definitely I'm mostly impressed at the performance of the CPU. It's been for many generations, I've said this before, but for many generations, that performance increase has just been real incremental between each generation of CPU. But with actual competition coming in from AMD, Intel has really stepped up, and these mobile CPUs are definitely getting significantly bigger leaps in performance gains between each generation. There's only three generations between these two systems, and this is a Core i5 versus a Core i7, and this definitely is a faster CPU than the 8th gen. So definitely something to keep note of. You know, in every task, I did some video editing, some rendering, and some just video file compression, things like that. And this definitely ran faster, and it ran cooler because it doesn't have the dedicated graphics. So this machine does consume less power, and it can create less heat, and that is noticeable in this system. So if you have any thoughts or questions, go ahead and leave those down in the comment section down below. I know this was just a quick video, a quick talking head. There just really isn't a lot to show on these systems. They really are. I'll go ahead and unplug the same system. I have a skin on mine, but just going around, we have our micro SD cards, headphone, microphone, HDMI, USB Type A, your USB Type C's. On this side, you have your Ethernet, another USB Type A, your cooling vents. They're the same thickness. They're the same as far as the chassis goes. So there just really isn't a whole lot to show here on these systems. These aren't really gaming machines. Even the P43S with its dedicated graphics card, it's not much of a gaming laptop. It was really meant for workloads. And with video encoding and things like that, the current gen Core i5 processor in some of those tests actually came out on top because it has better support than the older dedicated graphics in my P43S. So one thing I would recommend if you were to buy this laptop, they're not very expensive. About $25 is to buy a skin. You obviously don't have to get one that's wood grain. I'll put a link down in the description for these, but they do a lot to protect your laptop from getting scratched up and beat up. I'm actually going to be selling this laptop pretty soon. I have a different one that's coming in to replace it, and so definitely be doing a video about that. But when I go to peel this off, it's going to look like a brand new laptop under here, because everywhere where I would normally have wear on the palm rest, the touchpad, and the top where it can get scratched up, obviously the bottom is not protected, but it's funny, the bottom doesn't seem to get the same amount of marks as the top likes to do, just because it's a big open piece of plastic. So I definitely recommend getting a vinyl skin for these to keep them looking nice And then when you go to work and everybody has exactly the same laptop, yours will stand out and you'll know which one is yours. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing day.